Hello, YouTube audience. It's Jonathan Farrell here again, continuing my How to Draw cartoon series. And just as a little bit of review, if you were with me last time, we went over the basic features of a simple cartoon character. And we'll be revisiting those principles and ideas in a couple of lessons. But I'm actually almost going to rewind the clock a little bit. And this lesson, we're going to be focusing on how to draw a face in three-dimensional perspective, how to draw a face when it's looking to the side, up, down, three-quarter perspective. And then from there, we'll be looking at some facial expressions, and we'll probably call that it for this specific lesson. So I'm just going to minimize the screen, pull up Sketchbook Express. All right. So I just, so again, we're going to be starting with a face, and you'll notice when I'm drawing with my Wacom tablet, the lines are quite loose. There's a lot of extra lines going on here. There aren't, I'm not too concerned about perfection at this point. And that's one thing I want to encourage whenever you're sketching is just don't be afraid to have a million lines going on, because you capture the basic essence. Like, for instance, if I'm going to draw a figure who's, just kind of sneaking on by, it's this whole idea of gesture. You don't really need to have, you don't need things perfect at the beginning. So just feel free. It might even help to scribble a little bit. Just keep your, and just something that I'll quickly show you on my arm and my hand here. So a lot of people, when they're drawing, they're just using their little fingers. There's just a little bit of movement from their fingertips when they're drawing. One thing I want to encourage you is use your entire wrist. Like if I'm drawing with my Wacom tablet, I'm using my entire wrist. And if you're drawing even larger, use your entire arm. So just loosen up your entire arm, do a little bit of a wave, and continue to draw really loose lines. I'm just going to pull this to the side again. Oops. Okay. So zooming into my drawing, and now we are going to draw a face from numerous perspectives. So again, drawing a circle. And just like we did last time, we're going to be dividing that circle into quadrants. So there's, and the reason why I feel like I perhaps didn't explain that clearly enough in my last video. The reason why we include the quadrants when we're drawing a face is that when I'm drawing eyes, I know that the distance, and I'll just draw it with red, from one eye to the middle of the face should be equal to the other distance from that second eye to the middle of the face. It helps keep things consistent and trying to keep things parallel on each side. It's just easier having that direct spatial relationship by having drawn that line. Same thing with the mouth. If I'm going to draw a mouth on the bottom side of this guy's face, just ensuring that the one side is equal to the other side. Just delete that there. Okay. So drawing the face, drawing a circle, splitting it in half, splitting other midpoint, the horizontal line, the vertical line. And I'm just going to enlarge this a little bit. And I want us to first start by drawing one simple face. And then from there, we're going to take that simple face and draw it from numerous angles. So as I zoom in, so once you've drawn all your, numerous lines, you can then go in and refine a little bit. I wouldn't spend too much time making it perfect, but at this point, some of those extra lines are going to get in the way of some of the facial features. I can't speak this morning. But yeah, I erase those extra lines and then you can go in and draw ovals. Ovals for the eyes. And the weird thing about a cartoon character is the eyes rest above that midpoint line. Whoops. With a real human being, like if you were to look at my face, you can see that my eyes are actually halfway up my head. It's probably one of the most commonly made mistakes when people are trying to draw real human beings, is that they don't remember or recognize that the eyes are halfway up the head, from the top of the head to the base of the chin. The eyes are halfway down the face. So we'll continue with my pen. Smiley face. So, and the placement of the cheeks, just as long as they're, oh, we totally lost my face there. Oops, we'll minimize that. There we go. The cheeks, as long as they're somewhere on the sides of the face, you're fine. With sort of a smiley line underneath and another curve underneath this. And if you want to get really fancy, you can include even a little bit of a tongue in the bottom of the mouth. Bit of a curve. And you can fill in this part in the distance with black. You can draw in some pupils. The shape of the pupil of the eye, as long as it's basically following the shape of the outer oval of the eye, you're going to be doing just fine. One thing I do want to point out as well, though, when you're drawing the eye, don't draw the pupil right in the middle of the eye. If it's right in the middle, it ends up looking either really shocked, like got that sort of shocked expression. Oh my goodness! In order to give it that more friendly, pleasant, sort of happy expression, usually the eyes aren't going to be right in the center. They'll be a little bit lower and a little bit to the side as well. So I'll just delete what I've got here. And, oh, we forgot eyebrows. You can include some eyebrows if you want to. All right, so that's the basics of that face. A face straight on, we're not looking at that face from any angle. The next angle that we're going to look at here, whoops, is we're going to look at the side view of the face. It's going to be easier to understand the three-quarter perspective if we have the side view and the complete straight-on view of the face to look at it. So we're going to draw the horizontal line. This time, that line that was running down the middle of his face here is actually the circle itself. I don't know if you can see that, but that line, if his nose, and like he doesn't have a nose, but if he had a nose and lips and his eyes, that's a circle. That red circle is running around where that circle shape would actually be. Then we can draw the eye. And the nice thing about having, if you're ever drawing a character from numerous perspectives and trying to draw them in 3D, it's actually quite helpful to have this side-by-side comparison, because I can just draw, like if you draw lines, there's going to be a little bit of a distance from the top of midpoint line, and a little bit of space from the top of the head. And that's roughly how tall the eye should be. And then you can go in and, whoops, change my tool again. And you can draw your oval. And from our first lesson, we discussed that idea of perspective. Things get smaller as they're looked at from the side. But things also get skinnier too. Like instead of having a round circle of an eye over here, the eye becomes a very skinny kind of oval because it's moving around that three-dimensional sphere. Next, we can fill in where that pupil would be. Oops, got my pencil. And then we've got our eyebrow that kind of sticks above the head. And finally, if you look at our first face, the cheek moves a little bit past where the edge of the eye is, but they're pretty much matched up. Like they're very close. When we look at human anatomy, we'll actually find that the distance of the eyes is pretty much equal to the width of the mouth. But again, we can draw a little line here. Oops. And again, having that side view or having a direct comparison to know where everything should fit is very helpful. If you want to have a little bit of a tongue there, that is great. So that's a very simplistic side view of this very simplistic cartoon character's face. Now we're going to try drawing the 3-point, sorry, it's called the 3/4, I'll just write it out here on the screen, 3/4 perspective. That means we're looking at it not straight on, not from the side, but from about a 45-degree angle. And the 3/4 perspective is the most difficult of all the perspectives to draw. So again, I'm going to cheat here. I'm just going to copy and paste this just to have that basic circle shape already drawn out for me. And then I'm going to erase what's around here. And then we can continue to draw with our pencil. Okay. So this time, just like in the first lesson, we're going to draw a line curving around the face. Because again, that face is, this is a ball, it's a sphere. So we're going to have a curved line going around the side. And you would think, is the line in the middle going to be curved? And the answer is no. It would actually stay completely horizontal, like in those first two circle drawings, because we're not looking at this head from the top or the bottom. If I were to draw this face looking more above the head, like if this character was looking down at something, then at that point you would have a curve happening for those eyes. And the eyes would then kind of follow something like this with the smiley face. Okay, so that midpoint line would curve if it's looking down, but because the let's just call it the vertical axis, because there's no going up or down of the face, we don't have to worry about that midpoint line being curved. Now we can zoom in. Actually, I'm just going just one moment here. Okay, just wanted to be sure this was in fact recorded. Sorry about that. New to figuring out this technology. We can then draw the ovals of the eyes. And I probably sound like a broken record, but I really want to get that point of perspective across. The eye that is further away is going to be skinnier than the eye that is closer to us. And then just like the other face, that cheek is going to be just kind of matching, oops, I'll use a red line, matching the outside of the eye. And that curve will come around to the other side of the face. And then we can draw the bottom curve of the mouth. I'll just erase this here. And we can draw the ovals of the eyes. And one thing I want to point out, just like I did in the in lesson number 1, this side of the mouth, this character's right side of the mouth is skinnier and smaller than the left side. Again, because of perspective. So that character, now we have successfully drawn the front view, the side view, and the 3/4 view of this happy face. Now we are going to draw, as I said, the 3/4 perspective looking up and looking down. So I will do this one more actually, I'll copy this 2 more times. Move this down. We'll zoom into this face here, and we'll erase all the extra lines. If you can bear with me. Okay, so this time both of our perspective lines are going to be curved. This one he's going to be looking down, and this one over here he's going to be looking up. Now this exercise might seem a little bit redundant, a little bit repetitive, but drawing characters in 3D and learning to draw in perspective, it's one of the most important tools in drawing characters that seem more believable, more complex, more compelling. It's going to take a character that didn't look that looked overly simplistic, and it's going to add a whole layer of believability, and it'll look a lot more impressive. And these are tools that Disney animators, as well as just a second, my Wacom tablet's going crazy. Okay. Oh. Let's try that again. Oh, for some reason the driver for my Wacom tablet glitched out. The line quality that you will see me drawing from now on will be a little bit different, but if you can just bear with me. So now we're going to draw. Oh, now it came back again. That's good. Okay. So these eyes, again, the one that is closer to us is going to be larger. The one that's further away is smaller. And we'll draw the smiley face. And the bottom is almost being completely, it's hardly even there. Like this, because the mouth is further away from us, the whole mouth itself shrinks down and becomes smaller. And then this one where he's looking up, the eyes become very kind of squashed. So normally the eyes were kind of this longer oval, but because they are curving up away from us, that oval shape is actually going to become either a circle, or even the oval is going to be going the opposite direction. So it's just much more of a rounded circle, because those eyes are looking away from us. So rounded ovals. And you'll see that in the pupil as well. So if you were to see the overall shape, we'll change the color of the eye. It's something like this. It's much more of a circular shape because he's looking away. It almost looks like he's wearing glasses. But just keep in mind, so this whole principle of, I hope this makes sense to you. The eye straight on is a longer oval, and then if that person's face is bending away from us, and those eyes are near the top of the head, they're actually going to become like a circular shape. And the more you draw in perspective, the more this principle is going to make sense to you. So I'm just going to zoom out a little bit. Hopefully you can pause the YouTube video if you want to have a good view of these different views. But so now we've gone through and we've drawn, for the most part, most of the ideas that you would need if you were to draw this head from any angle. We haven't done the back angle, but really the back side of the head would be just a circle unto itself. It'd be very simplistic. There's no features to really worry about. And there you have it. So, and again, a perspective, very important tool if you're wanting to draw a character from numerous sides. Now, if you can bear with me, I'm just going to look up. Okay. Now we've drawn that face from numerous angles. Now I want us to look at, if we were to draw numerous facial expressions, what would we actually be drawing? And one thing I want to encourage you to do, if you're just learning how to draw facial expressions, start using a mirror. Often if I'm having to figure out sort of a subtle expression, and there's hundreds of expressions out there. I don't know if you've ever seen those facial charts where they have different versions of all these different, like love struck, in awe, being extremely ecstatic, being happy. What are the eyebrows, the cheeks? What's the mouth going to be doing? And we're going to be going over a few together and looking at the differences. But the best tool that you can use, and professional animators still use mirrors, because there's nothing better. You've got yourself as a reference. You can sort of act. What is that pose? What is that expression? And you can capture that feeling and then draw what you see. But I'm going to zoom in here. And so again, drawing our wonderful circle. Erase a little bit. But again, don't make it perfect. You'll notice again, I've got like lots of lines going on. That's a good quality. It means that you were drawing loosely and you're not concerned about being perfect the first time. The first thing I'm going to draw, just as a basic reference, like we've already drawn, is that basic happy face. So we've got our ovalish eyes here, with our happy eyebrows and our big smile. So this is sort of your stereotypical happy face if you're drawing someone who's happy. Eyebrows are sticking up, like they're coming up together. They're not going down, or they're not just flat. They are angled up towards each other. And the eyes are quite large. And the pupil is large as well. A large pupil is going to make something look very friendly and cute. The next face I'm going to draw is actually a surprised expression. If you're wondering why I keep looking off screen, I have saved some previous drawings I've done on my phone, and I'm just using it as a reference. So now if we draw the halfway point, same thing again, vertical and horizontal lines, and now we can, the eyes are going to be a little bit wider spread, a little bit larger than they were before. So if you look at me, and I'm looking at you, my eyes are normally very like a mole-like, very squinty. But like if I'm in shock, you can see a lot of the whites of my eyes that surround the pupil. My eye becomes huge. So it's going to be with this face here. And some things I just want to point out. The eyebrows are going to be raised higher than before, same angle, higher than before. The pupil is going to be very small. it's like the pupil dilates, and this is an exaggeration, a caricature of this expression. And then the mouth is going to shrink down as well into just sort of like a, oh my goodness. So if this character was caught on a road and suddenly thought it was going to be hit by a car or something, oh my goodness, this is what the facial expression would be. The next expression we'll look at is if a character is angry. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the happy face. So there's different kinds of angry. This one we'll be drawing is more the I'm going to take over the world. This is an evil, maniacal look of being angry, but like having pleasure as well. So we're going to draw the furrowed eyebrow. So it's kind of like these. So what I've just drawn right here, this isn't in fact the eyebrows. The eyebrows would, this is more the skin. I'm going to make this large as well. It's the flesh of the eyebrow that's overlapping. You see here how like the flesh of my eyebrow can overlap my eyes. There's like the thickness of my eyebrow can actually like cover parts of my eyes. So that's what's happening here. The eyebrows are moving placement as well, but there's that flesh is also moving. So I'm just going to erase the extra lines over here, and it's going to overlap. So the main thing, if you don't include these little lines here, it's not as important. But just notice that instead of eyebrows being angled up, they are now being angled the opposite direction. And then the eyebrows are going to be following that same general idea. Just like you saw in it was almost like a mirror when I blew up the video. You know, you can easily see what's going on, and those eyebrows are following the form. Actually, I'm going to have them angled in a little bit more. I've been drawing for years, but there's still things that I recognize as I draw. It's going to look a little bit more believable if the eyebrows are getting closer to the sort of the furrow of the brow, closer to the face, and then it's then thicker further away. But then you've got sort of this flesh overlooking his eye, and now you've got this. And actually, one other thing I would probably include is the cheeks are covering. His eyes are becoming a little bit squinty. So this line that I'm drawing right here represents the cheek shape. So there's going to be sort of this ovalish, rounded form of the cheek. And often you don't draw this shape of the cheek, but in different facial expressions, it will overlap. It's going to, because they're moving upwards, it'll end up covering the bottom part of the eyes. And it just makes for that much more of a believable facial expression. Next, sorry, my voice is getting a little bit dry. So we're going to draw this again, our vertical and horizontal lines. And in this next one, actually, you know what? I'm just going to copy what I had right here. That is the beauty of computer technology. So we've got our angry face. But one change I'm going to make to this one here is just the expression of the mouth. And this is what, there's a lot of subtlety to expression. There are things that are subtle, but they read a lot. So you'll notice that between these two facial expressions, the eyes are identical. You just saw me copy the image. However, the mouth has been changed from a smile to an upside down. And I've also included just a little bit of detail, like the flesh of the mouth kind of surrounding that upside down, that frown. Totally different expression. In one, you've got that I'm evil and I want to do something bad. In the second expression, you've got this look of displeasure. He's not a happy camper. So noticing those differences, that's where having a mirror or having something to look off of is going to be very, very helpful. The next expression we're going to be doing is if a person is looking too cool for school, if they're looking annoyed, this is what their facial expression would look like. So I'm going to draw the oval eyes again. So note as well, I'm pretty much drawing all of these eyes and faces consistently. At the very beginning, it's a very similar start. But then it is in the execution of where are those eyebrows, where are those cheeks? Eyebrows and cheeks are probably the most important parts of a facial expression because they affect everything else. So in this one eye is going to have sort of that angry looking eye that we just drew. And then this eye here is looking up. And then the bottom parts of the eyes are going to be covered by the cheeks. And then it's a bit of an upside down, sort of crooked mouth shape. Whoops, that angle was maybe a little bit extreme. And and then the bottom eyebrow. And we'll erase a little bit of in between here. Oops. You know what? That eyebrow is not correct. As I said, some of the subtlety of expression, I definitely still need a mirror. Oops. But anyways, just this general idea of a character who is annoyed. Sorry it took me so long. That expression, yeah. I'm definitely nowhere. You're always learning and drawing, and you know, I've still got things to learn myself. But okay, so we've kind of arrived at this annoyed expression. And the key features of this one here, it's more subtle. It's not as obvious like happy or sad. But as long as you've got one eye that's kind of looking up, so you can divide the face in half. Like if you can imagine for a moment that you're just looking at half of the face. Whoops. You've got sort of this happy looking, pleased expression. And then on the other half, you've got somebody who is not happy. And then the end result is someone who's annoyed. Next, the next face that we can look at, just going to draw out the circle. And we've got our lines, our horizontal and our vertical lines. And the next expression is going to be sadness. So this guy is going to be looking a little bit forlorn. He hasn't had as good of a day. So drawing our eyes the way we always do, big open eyes. So you'll notice that I'm always drawing sort of the open shape of the eye first. almost always. And then I draw in the eyebrows and the cheeks that will cover that up. Here we can have these upward angled eyebrows. And then the bottom parts of the eyes are going to be covered. And then the mouth is going to be upside down. So he's not crying yet, but it's that look of sort of surprise, but also some sadness. And actually, if you exaggerate how covered up those eyes are, and again, subtlety, but if you've got an even eyelids that are being covered even more, it's going to look that much more sad. Yeah. And we have 2 more expressions to do. We are going to do a look of wincing in pain, and the last one, a person who is crying. So in this one here, we'll zoom in and draw horizontal and vertical, and normally the eyes would go right here, so just very loosely draw the ovals, but these eyes are actually going to be completely shut, so just draw where those eyelids would meet, those horizontal lines, and then we're going to be drawing all of the flesh, all of sort of the muscle form surrounding the eyes to give it this look where his eyes are clenching shut. So if you look at me, so all that flesh is just coming together, clenching shut in his frustration. And then the mouth it's kind of open, but you'll notice that the bottom parts of the mouth are wider than the top parts of the mouth. So you've got these sort of big cheeks happening. And then some teeth that are clenching. So those teeth that are clenching together. And in this instance, I will erase some of those extra lines because it's getting in the way of how well that facial expression is reading. And so you've just got all of the all that flesh around the eye that is clenching together. And actually, they call these crow's feet, the edges of the eyes. But maybe just having them closer together, that'll read a little bit better as well. Just be a moment here. Yeah. Having those crow's feet will definitely help in this overall look of frustration. Finally, we're going to go in and we're going to do that expression of sadness. So, surprisingly, we can actually, well, you might notice a pattern. There's a lot of similarities between facial expressions, but it's the slight differences between them that gives them a completely different read. So zooming into this guy here, we are then going to be erasing these eyelids above. We'll finish drawing the head. And in this instance, the eyebrows are going to be going up. So we're just changing the angle of the eyes, and we're going to erase the clenched teeth. And all of a sudden, you've got a guy who's crying. It's quite sad. This is something that I just want to point out when drawing someone who's crying. This is something I just remember. Maybe this sounds very abstract and strange, but when I was little, I used to draw tears coming down the middle of the face right here. It ends up looking almost a little bit more like some snot running down his face. Tears always come out the sides of the eyes, from the far sides of the eyes, not not the middle of the eye, the sides of the eye. And so if he's crying, he's going to have the tears running down his face, coming out from the sides. Okay, so you've got your crying individual. So those are the basics of the facial expressions. So thank you very much for, I'll just put this full screen. Thank you very much for sticking with me as we looked at three-dimensional perspective as we draw a character from numerous angles, as well as looking at how to draw the subtleties of facial expression. And these are tools that you've obviously, and I'm still learning myself, but it's something that I think we should all be developing and growing in. And once you learn the basics, you can then translate that to a more fully realized character. Just as a heads up for lesson number 3, we're going to be re-reviewing the proportions of a simple cartoon character's body, but then we're going to be drawing that body in numerous gestures, different poses, action poses that a character might be taking, and knowing how to take the shapes that we've learned and putting those shapes onto the skeletons. Thank you very much, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.